Hey, what's good, everybody? I'd like to welcome you all to a brand new episode of the Boombox Guru, and I'm your host, LB. So today, I'm doing an album review on the brand new Prince album called Welcome to America, which was released on July the 30th. And this is the first posthumous studio album that the estate has released. So this is a studio album that Prince recorded around, say, like 2008, 2009, and it was initially intended to be released in 2010, but for unknown reasons, Prince decided to shelve the album and moved on to other projects. And he recorded this album with as a three piece, but later on he added in members of his backing band, the New Power Generation. So this record came out on NPG Records Legacy, which they're the ones that seem to be releasing a lot of the Prince material since his death. And let's get into what I like about this record already. So let's get into some positives. So for one thing, I think this album is a callback to the funk and soul sounds of the early '70s, and there's a lot of funkier grooves on this record. Man, a lot of the songs on here feel as if they could have fitted on a blaxploitation film. A great example is that a song called "Born to Die." That song sounds something like Curtis Mayfield. If I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Superfly or heard that soundtrack, man, but Born to Die sounds like it could have fit. It would have fit perfectly on that soundtrack, man. Especially with the whole sounds, slow, funky grooves, and the whole story that Prince is telling. It just has that whole vibe on that entire song, man. It's one of my favorites from the record, and I think it's one of the album's highlights as well. It was actually released onto YouTube not long after they announced and started promoting the release of Welcome to America. Initially, when I heard the song by itself, I thought it was a good song, but I wasn't blown away about it. But listening to the song within the context of the album, though, I really dig it a lot more because it just flows so well with the whole structure and the sequencing of how the record comes off, and a lot of social commentary in the subject matter. On this particular record, Prince is tackling racism, police brutality, disinformation, the ascendance of social media, capitalism, a lot of things, man. Although these are subjects that uh, are no stranger to a Prince album, throughout his career, he always managed to tackle these particular topics in some form or fashion in his music. But on this particular album, though, you hear a lot more of it. You're hearing a lot more of it, and there's a great blending of gospel and rock music as well, especially on the second half of the record, man. I just thought that was really interesting, man. Like the background vocalists, like, man, they did such an awesome job in invoking that gospel feel, especially into a lot of the more hopeful, uh, uplifting songs on there. It was just a really good blend of that, man. I thought the background vocalists did an amazing job. Uh, one song in particular is called "Stand Up and Be Strong." It's a very anthemic and hopeful song. And when listening to "Stand Up and Be Strong," it kind of the sound of that song, it was very like reminiscent of something that could have been on Chaos and Disorder. Chaos and Disorder, that's an old Prince album from back in '96. It was one of the albums he released during his dispute with Warner Brothers. But I don't know. It's just listening to Stand Up and Be Strong. It just gave me that vibe. More so like the song I Will that appears on Chaos and Disorder. Because that song I Will has that similar type of vibe to it. Because it's a hopeful song. I Will is a hopeful song as well. In spite of like all the things that Prince was dealing with at that time, it's a hopeful song. And that's what this song is. Like Stand Up and Be Strong. It's like no matter what you're going through and what you're dealing with at the moment, you gotta stand up and be strong. So yeah, that song was very reminiscent of like something that sounded similar on Chaos and Disorder. And oh yeah, the song called Yes. There's a song called Yes. This is another one of my favorites, man. This is a upbeat Sly and the Family Stone inspired track because it had. If you ever listen to like Sly and the Family Stone, like some of their songs like "Take You Higher" or the song or the album that they did called "Stand," it sounds a lot of like the music and the sounds that they did on those particular records. And in a nutshell, when listening to that particular song, it kind of sounded like Sly and the Family Stone meets Prince and the Revolution, man. That's just the vibe that I got from it, because you got the funk, the upbeat, funky, gospel, soulful sounds of Sly and the Family Stone, and it's kind of blending it together with the more funkier rock type Minneapolis sound that Prince and the Revolution helped to pioneer back in the 80s. And I just thought it was a really interesting song. The only thing is, I wish the song could have been longer, man. It's just a little bit under like 3 minutes. I think the exact time is like 2 minutes and 56 seconds. But I thought it was one of the best songs on the record, and I really enjoy listening to it anytime I'm jamming out to this record. And then you have a lot of P-Funk inspired songs on here as well, man. I definitely hear the George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic vibes coming through on a lot of these tracks, man. The title track, Welcome to America, which actually kicks off the album, that song reminds me a lot of P-Funk Wants to Get Funked Up from Parliament's The Mothership Connection album. It has that similar structure because it's a slow, groovy song, somewhat jazzy in parts, and Prince's of his vocals delivery on this particular song is in a spoken word type format. He's not actually singing. You could say he's like sort of rapping in a spoken word sort of style. And that song is pretty much just laying out the whole tone of the record for the most part. I would say it's not only is it a full song, but it's also the introduction of the album. It's pretty much just laying it all out of what you're getting into listening to this record. And then the second track on here, Running Game, another slower, funkier and groovier track on here, which I thought, and I'm trying to figure out what this song is actually about. I'm trying to determine whether this song is either about capitalism or if this is Prince being critical of the record industry. Because reading through the lyrics, it seems that he's being critical of the record industry. And the full title of the song is called Running Game, Son of a Slave Master. So I think it could work both ways. But I'm thinking that this song is more of a critique on the record industry, which, I mean, we all know Prince was very vocal about the record industry, especially with his dispute with Warner Brothers and, that era where he had slave written on his face. So I'm going to say that this song is more so about, his his critique on how the record industry treats artists and so forth. Now, as far as negatives about this album, I don't honestly, I don't really have any, and I don't mean to come off biased because I am a Prince fan, but going back and listening to this record more and more, the negatives about this just really lessen and lessen to the point where I just really couldn't really find any. The only thing I can say is that I do enjoy the second half of the album a bit more than the first half, because the second half, when it starts with the song called Hot Summer, Hot Summer, that's when they start bringing in more of the rock oriented sound. And I'm just a huge fan of when Prince did rock music, because he was really good at it. And I really enjoyed, like, in the 90s and the 2000s when he started to implement that more into his sound. So I really enjoyed that side a little bit more. I just think it was a little bit more interesting. One thing I can say is that even though I do think this is a really good album, I think that it's a solid record, I will say that it really didn't. It hasn't really blown me away necessarily. Most of the time when I listen to a Prince record, man, there's always some songs on there that kind of have you like, whoa, like, man, how did he do that? Or there's like concepts that make you ponder, like, man, how did he even think that up? I'm not really getting that too much from this record. I will say that, I usually end up having, there's usually a song or a few songs on a Prince album when I listen to it where he's kicking like killer guitar solos, and you're kind of just sitting there listening like, wow, man, this dude was an amazing guitarist. Or he says some type of smooth line, or I don't know, but I'm not really getting too much of that feeling. But that's just me personally, to each his own. Somebody else, it may differ, but that's not really necessarily a negative towards the album. That's just more so of where I'm at with it. And of course, I'm still in the process of really listening to this album consistently to really get more into the groove of things. And the more that I'm listening to it, the more that I'm starting to find little nuances and other things that really jump out to me that I might not have picked up on prior listens. So for the most part, man, I think this is a solid record. I don't know if it'll go down in history as one of the best Prince records, but it's definitely a solid release in his discography. And so in conclusion, it took me a few listens to really grasp onto this record. And like I just mentioned, I'm starting to like pick up on other things that I didn't pick up on in prior listens, and it's making me appreciate the record more and more as I continue to listen to this record and get a feel for it more. And like I said, that's the only thing about it, man. It didn't really just grasp me as quickly as other Prince albums would. And it's kind of bittersweet too, because Prince recorded this album, he shelved it, and it's released now. And of course, Prince passed away 5 years ago. But what's really strange is that I don't know if he released this album back in 2010, if it really would have resonated with people, because a lot of the stuff he's talking about, like particularly when he in the song "Welcome to America," when he's talking about like social media becoming more dominant. In 2010, I don't know if social media was as dominant as it is now. I think it was getting to that point, but a lot of the things he talks about, like disinformation, that's something that a lot of us are dealing with now with, the situation that's happening all over the world. We're living, we're dealing with a lot of that stuff right now. And, of course, police brutality, which, that stuff is nothing new. That's something that's been happening for a long time, for centuries. But it's all in the news now. It's more prevalent in the news now. There's a lot of things discussed on here that most of us are probably like just now seeing, or our eyes are, or we're being open to. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if this record would have really resonated with everybody in 2010. It might have would have went over people's heads a little bit. But so no, we don't know. Maybe this record came out at the time that it was supposed to come out. Because sometimes in the times that I've listened to this record, sometimes I'm listening to it and I kind of forget that it's a posthumous album. I actually do forget that, because a lot of what he's talking about is relevant to today. It's kind of like when you listen to like a Tupac album, a Tupac posthumous album. People always say, hey, everything he's saying is relevant to today. Well, maybe that's because nothing's changed since when he originally recorded the songs. So it's kind of in a similar vein to that, man. But I'm glad that I decided to take more time and listen to this record, because I do really enjoy it a lot more than I initially did on the first couple of listens. So with that being said, I highly recommend that if you haven't went and checked out Welcome to America, go ahead and check it out. Whether you stream it, whether you buy it, whatever you got to do, man, just go ahead and check this album. I recommend it. Like I said, I think it's a solid record. I don't think it's the greatest record that that Prince has ever done, but it's definitely a solid one, man. And I don't think uh, anyone who's a Prince fan would be disappointed by it. And I'm really glad that the estate, Prince's estate, decided to go ahead and release an actual studio album from the vault. Because pretty much all we've been getting here lately is like compilation albums, and of course the super deluxes, which the super deluxes are awesome, especially with the remastered versions of those classic records. But it's really good to finally get a previously unreleased original studio album out of the vault, and it's making me hopeful for what else there may be in that vault, because he had a lot of projects, finished albums, projects that he just lost interest in and he just shelved in the vault. And it's making me hopeful, because I think Welcome to America is a really good start with them, putting out more of those previously unreleased projects and studio albums. So a big shout out to Prince's estate and everything. But yes, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope my recommendation will maybe inspire somebody to go out and check this album, because I recommend it. I think it's a really good record. And I hope everybody out there has a blessed day and a blessed week. Don't forget to like the video, hit that thumbs up, because it helps give my videos exposure. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. That way you can get the notifications whenever I upload and drop a new video. And check out my other content, man. I got other album reviews. I got tier list videos. I have some album reviews that I did when I was working on a podcast. Just check out the channel and see if there's anything that might spark your interest. And I hope everybody has a blessed day and a blessed week. And as always, love, peace, and music. Peace out.